there was ever a sign that encompassed the idea of how the rest of the rally was going to be, it was the sign. Hey everyone, we're missing a bit of footage, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a voiceover like this with me showing a couple times and then put our footage and stuff on top of it. Where we want to start is at the border, which was kind of a weird border crossing since it was only the second time Shane was separated from me. 10-hour drive from that border to get to Baku, which is the capital of Azerbaijan, where we stayed for about 5 days, and we debated whether or not we wanted to take the ferry across to, I believe it was Okto, or if we wanted to go up and over. And we had heard from many of the different ralliers that went ahead that ferry was not the best. Like, it was packed, there was hardly any facilities, and the facilities that were there were kind of nasty. So we ended up just deciding to drive up and over, but that produced its own challenges, which luckily we prepared for. While we were in Baku, we stopped by a place called the Bazaar, and they fitted our car with a sump guard. It was this grandson and his grandpa that were just working together in this garage. This place was kind of insane. It was just a bunch of people working out of like storage unit type garages with different like materials and stuff they had. But anyways, they got that fitted up and we were ready to go, and left north towards Dagestan, which is a republic of Russia, and found out at the border that Russia's border crossings are a little more difficult than the other border crossings we had been through. We got interrogated a little bit on whether or not we had Armenian like artifacts or books or anything else whenever we were going through the Azerbaijani border. But going through the Russian border, we had to completely empty out our car, and they found this rock that I had kept from the Transfiguration, that waterfall I climbed up, because it was shiny. I don't know why I kept it. I don't know. Anyways, and they asked what it was. They asked if it was Azerbaijani artifact or anything else, or a relic or something like that. I said no, it's just a rock. So they kind of got confused but let me go. But the big problem we had there was with signing the paperwork to get through, because most of it was not electronic. They had this paper that they copied before they gave it to us. It was the same paper, then they made 2 copies of it. I had to fill out both copies since I was the owner of the car, and had to make sure there were no mistakes on any of them. I filled out the first one fine. The second one, I made a small mistake that like I accidentally made a line too long or something like that. So he gave me a new paper to fill it out again. He said, no doing this. And I'm sitting there wondering why they can't just copy it, since they copied this paper anyways. Why can't they copy my first good one? But 5 more sheets down the line of me making mistakes after mistake, Shane asked if she can fill it out. And he said, no, it has to be the owner of the car. But after 2 more times of me filling it out and failing, he kind of just slides the paper over to her and walks away. After that, he told us the insurance was on the other side, and that's where we would get the Russian insurance, which we weren't able to get ahead of time. At least we didn't know how to get ahead of time. We've been getting all the other insurances at the border since Europe. And we got over to the other side and it was closed for the weekend. We got there at 3 a.m. on a Saturday, and it was not going to be open the rest of the time we were there. So we decided to go to the city and find out if there was another way we could get insurance while we were there. After going to 3 different places in the city, including a police station where we were kept in kind of like this cage, because Dagestan has had issues with rebellion against Russia, we were told that we needed to go to the capital of the Republic of Dagestan to get our insurance, which is Makhachkala. All right, 4 hours and 1 outfit change later, I am back to finish the story. Whenever we did get to Makhachkala, the capital, the hostess of the hotel directed us towards a couple of her friends who she called. One person would come over because they spoke better English than she did. They would call somebody because they have a friend that speaks better English than them. And then they would call somebody else until we got to a guy who was about our age, and he spoke pretty good English, but he didn't know how exactly to help us, other than he did know a friend that could help us that spoke English very well. He said he was with the police, and he made 2 or 3 calls, and eventually he just kind of said, "We'll come and help you out," and left. Then about an hour of sitting there waiting, the hostess gives us some coffee, and I don't like coffee. She asked if I wanted some, and I said no, but she still served it anyways, so I didn't want to be a rude guest and not take care of it. But she also served some cookies with it to soak in there. So during that hour, I finally finished my coffee by soaking it completely up with cookies, not drinking any of it because I don't like coffee at all. And I thought I had done my due diligence, being a good guest and everything, but she decides to fill it back up. Luckily, about halfway through that cup, the guy shows up. He was one of the most muscular people we've ever seen. Says he can take me to the place to get the insurance filled out, but we need to make like one stop somewhere first. It's across town. And I was a little bit worried to go with him because I thought it was the police. I'm like, we've driven now without any insurance, and he knows that. And Shayna was a little nervous about it too, but there wasn't anything else we could do at this point. So I went with him. I became a little skeptical of his position whenever we entered in his S-Class Mercedes. Brand new one. So I asked him his occupation while we were driving around, and he said he was a banker. So that put me a little bit at ease. That made a lot more sense for all of that. But anyways, he called a friend that came to help us out at the insurance place. I felt kind of bad on her coming in on the weekend, and then I felt really bad whenever I saw her, as she was very pregnant. I apologized quite a bit to her. She seemed like she was fine, and she said it's all right, and she's happy to help. So she helped us out, gave us the insurance. We were all good to go. So he took me back, and Shayna's looking like she had just been worrying the entire time. And I talked to her about it, and she still thought he was part of the police. So she was a little worried, thought I had been arrested since we were gone for about an hour or two. But overall, everybody we met there was really nice. In fact, the guy that helped us out gave us his WhatsApp and was helping us whenever we were driving through the rest of Russia, making sure we were all right, because the roads are very bad. In fact, we had to go through an area that was one of the worst areas. It was the worst area we had driven through at that point, and it was just completely dust roads. Well, the only thing we saw the entire time was an angry dog that tried to jump into my window. So, filling up with gas whenever we stopped to use the jerry can in the dark, like pitch black dark. Shayna had messed up putting the funnel together, and as I was pouring the jerry can in, it all sloshed back onto me, so I was completely soaked in gasoline. We decided to take it up later, which we did succeedingly do later. But driving along, I became a little more floaty in the head due to the fumes of the gasoline that were soaking my clothes. And that wasn't a big deal since it was a completely empty area, and really I had not seen people in hours. But we happened to find this area of construction that had a detour just completely off the road, off into the tracks without much signage for it. Almost fell into a 8-foot deep pit. That's what it's called. Avoided that and got stuck on top of a termite mound that I eventually, after finding out that we couldn't back up over it, I tried to dig us out, and you get fucking malaria. Oh shit, you're still recording.
I forgot to give the hotel key back to her. I have the hotel key in my pocket. Oopsie poopsie. The engine does not sound healthy. Fuck. Do you want me to get out and push? Not moving. What can we do?
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
We have no traction, that's what's going on.
You want to try to push it back? Try to get...
Sure.
And then tried to use a Tupperware lid to dig us out. And upon the sight of headlights, thinking nobody would find us here, and we've not seen people in 3 hours. Maybe it's somebody that's angry that we're out on their land or something. Started paddling as quickly as I could. Luckily, it was a family that spoke perfect English that had just won second place on a off-roading competition in Moscow. So they were easily able to pull us out.
Yay! Keep going.
They stuck with us whenever we were going through the rest of the detour. And once we were back on the road, they separated from us and went ahead because they had a vehicle that was much better able to handle the road we were on. About an hour down the road, we see them again. They waited on us because the road got worse, and they wanted to make sure we got through okay because they knew we were going through that way because that was the only way to get to where we were going. And they luckily waited on us because we got stuck 3 more times, and they pulled us out of it. But finally we made it at 3 or 4 a.m. to the hostel we were staying at, and you can see me dumping out my shoes here. Very filled with like dust. It wasn't even sand, it was just dust. But the car was completely filled with bugs, as you saw in the video earlier, that the headlights were almost completely covered in the bugs. It was very nasty. The car was filled with a bunch of dead ones that we were just smashing on the roof of the car while we were driving back from getting stuck. It was a fun night. But next we're headed towards Kazakhstan, and it's only going to get worse.
What is behind us?
Oh, then let's get over it. You can see the water right there.
Oh my god, you okay? Holy shit balls. It waves. We're shooting out of that segment. Oh, that was rough. I can't.
Turn the camera right.
It doesn't do that.
Turn it. Physically, turn the camera.